So basically the first part you're going to want to remove is the plastic housing around the latch assembly. As you can see, this is held in with two plastic grommet screw bits. These are the styles that are basically a Phillips head that sets into a expanding piece. You basically treat it just like you would a normal socket. Phillips head screw. You want to unscrew it to the point where it'll undo these two pieces from expanding, and then you can pull the unit right off. This is done with a Phillips head screw driver. Alright, there's only two of these in that panel. Once you have the panel loose, you basically need to just disconnect the emergency release pan handedly here. But basically the handle will slip right through, and that piece is removed. Second part you'll be removing is a plastic handle grab that is underneath the trunk. This is held in with two T25 Torx screws. As you can see, these are the heads on the Torx screws. Okay, that's it for the plastic bits. Now we go on to removal of the liner. This is held in with several plastic connecting buttons. And in order to remove those, you basically take your plastic non-marring panel removers, slide in between. I generally like to use two of these, that way you can pry it out on both sides without putting in damaging the button. These are basically just held in by a ribbed shaft which holds it into a screwed hole. That's why you need to do a wedge on both sides. Makes it a lot easier to remove. Okay, now the finished panel is removed. You can see where the buttons are connected in. And this is why they use the particular buttons with the ribbed shafts on them. Okay, so next, you're going to see that there are several connectors. One is for the switch, for the trunk release, and then there are two for the map lights. Now the map lights, you actually had to remove let's see if we can see it here. This wire connector here. This actually holds the terminal in place. And that's the connector that holds that socket. And you can either use a pair of needle nose pliers, or if you have good fingernails like I do, you can actually just pinch it loose with the fingernails, and then this connection just comes right loose. The next connector you're going to want to remove or release is wrapped in this foam padding. Just peel it back slightly. You'll see that on the side there's a tab right here. You just press in the tab and that connector will come loose. Just slide it out. This is the tab on the male connector. As you can see, this little button right here, you just press that in. One thing to mention before you start to remove the outside trim, this is the rubber boot that holds the wiring and creates the weather strip to the button for the release. What you want to do is actually compress that and fit it through the screwed deck hole that's there. And I'll just have to do that without the camera. Okay, so that's with the boot pressed through the back of the deck. Be careful not to tear that. Just try to pinch it around and slowly work it through the opening. I'll show you what the boot looks like shortly. Okay, so to remove these bolts, basically it's a number 10 millimeter. You can use an open end, which might be easier, or a socket. You probably only need to use about 2 or 3 turns, and then at that point you can hand remove them with your fingers. Now the only word of caution I have is make sure you have a good grip on that nut when it gets to the end, because if not, it's going to end up down here and you will never get it back. Okay, at this point, you've got all the nuts off, all the way across, back in here. Now with the trunk lid open, the next step I would recommend is get a bath towel, because you're going to want to put that between the trim and the trunk so that you do not scratch the surface, because basically, well, at least with this one with the broken tabs, this will fall right off. So I'm going to go grab a towel to protect the paint surface. Okay, now that we have the towels in place, you will see the demise of why this trim piece is toast. These are all the bolt tabs that you saw on the inside, which have all broken off the back. Next thing is, you will see the wire. This is the wire I was mentioning before, the rubber boot. This is the controller's wire for the switch. You just want to carefully feed that back through this hole and bring it out to the front. Okay, once you have that out of the trunk metal, you're ready to remove this piece. Okay, so now you can see the issues that this unit had. No trim pieces holding it on whatsoever. Now one thing you will notice that at the very end there's a little tooth. These are important when you put it back in, because these will actually go into these two end locations here at the end of the housings. These are only on the very ends. They're nowhere else located. Okay, now just to remove the old brackets, clean up the paint a little bit, remove my duct tape seals, since generally these are all gone. Hopefully I can reuse some of these. Once you have the 4 center bolts out, there are the 2 that are holding in this end bolt and this end bolt. These are little spring clips which you have to very carefully pull out, and I'll show you when they're done. They actually slide out of place. They're a spring tip. Okay, I just wanted to grab a flashlight, hopefully to shine some light in here so you can see what these clips look like. So that is the clip right there. You can see there's a slot, so you want to use a little bit of downward pressure and push it from the L part towards the pin. Okay, I stand corrected on that. You actually want to pull it with the L shape. This is a little slot opposite the L that the top of that pin will fit through. I'll show you the head of the pin. So as you can see, the small pin head, this is the outside of the trunk where my thumb is, and the clip inside. So it slides. There's little 2 notches there. So I can do this single-handedly. That slips off and then back through that hole at the bottom. Okay, so at this point of everything off, it's a good opportunity if you have any chips or scratches or anything that you want to touch up paint that's revealed, which I've done in a few spots here. This is a good time to do that. Also, these seals end up drying out and become very brittle, and unfortunately you cannot get replacements for them. Believe me, I've tried. So what I've done is did a little jerry rigging with some Gorilla duct tape, but also what I'm going to do is on the trim piece itself, I'm going to seal it with the gasket sealer, 3M gasket sealer tape, and I will show that to you in a minute. Okay, so I think we'll end this portion as the first sections of the removal, and I will post a follow-up video of the new installation. Alright guys, see you shortly.